Hey everybody, this is Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com, and I want to talk to you today about a little experiment I did recently. And what I did is I had a mix to do for a client. And this song is actually in Russian, so you're going to love this. But I didn't have a lot of time to work on it. I wanted to get him a mix, at least a first round mix, for him to approve the direction of the song one afternoon, and it was already after lunch, and I just had a couple hours. And so I decided to try something. Instead of starting the mix and working on a section and soloing the drums and getting them to sound good and then going on to guitars in each section of the mix like we normally do, I actually set up a loop with using this blue line up here and just had the song loop over and over and over. And I didn't let myself stop playback at all. And what I did, I gave myself about 5 or 6, I think it was 5 loops to get the song as close to mixed as possible. So that meant the song's a little over 4 minutes long, so it was right about 4 minutes long. So it was about 20 minutes that I gave myself to do a complete mix. And I couldn't stop playback. I had to just let it continue looping. So if there's one section I was working on with a harmonica solo and I didn't get the tone right, I had to just stop working on that when it went to the next section and work on other things. And then when it got back to the guitar, the harmonica solo again, the second pass through, then I could work on that harmonica sound a little bit more until it went away, and then I had to work on other stuff. So I was constantly jumping back and forth between drum sounds and then bass sounds and guitar sounds and vocal sounds and harmonica and piano, and was just jumping around and around and around. And after the 20 minutes was up, the mix was not finished, but it was actually sounding really good. And I felt very musical because I was just playing, the song was just constantly playing, and I wasn't starting and stopping it like I normally do. And so I actually printed that 20-minute mix, and that's what this top mix is up here that will color a gross orange. This is the 20-minute mix. So then I spent the next hour or so really going in and tweaking the individual sounds and actually just finishing up the mix. And that's what this mix is right here. And what's really remarkable that I found, or is just at least interesting, was that the finished final mix does sound better than the 20-minute mix, but not by much. It seems to me like the overall tone of the mix, I'd say 80% of the sound of the mix happened during that first 20 minutes. And then I just had to tweak some things and polish some things in the final hour or so of tweaking the mix. And so if you spend hours and hours and hours mixing, just try this sometime. Try setting up a loop and just giving yourself 20 to 30 minutes to see how far you can get. Don't stop playback. Let it just continue to loop and just continue to add in plugins and tweak those and just continue to do stuff. I think you'll be surprised what you can do when you force yourself into that sort of a circumstance. And so the whole point of this is not to say that I'm such a good mixer. I'm not. It's just being in that environment and being forced to make those decisions and not be able to go back forced me to get in there and to make those decisions quickly, and I didn't have any other choice, and I was really happy with the result, and it felt very musical. So enough of me talking. Let's take a listen to a little bit, and I'll just start playing, and you'll see me clicking this solo button on and off. So this right here is the meters, so whenever you see the meters bouncing, you know you're listening to that track. So this is the 20-minute mix track. This is the finished mix, and I'm really happy with the finished mix, but I'm surprised how much of that tone came from the original mix. So here you go. Let's just listen for just a minute or so, and you can hear the difference.
Ты так устал, что даже трудно дышать. Не хочется думать ни о чем, хочется сесть и молчать. И безмятежно наблюдать, как за окном плывут по небу облака.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change every 2 bars so you can kind of get the feel for how the mix is different. So every 2 bars I'll change what you're listening to, okay? Starting now.
Все твои дела и планы вдруг становятся нормальным. Все, что было странным, улетают мысли косяками. Сказочные страны уплывают в чудо-океаны. И затухает, замолкает твоей голове. И там, где было темно, зажигается свет. На месте тысячи исчезнувших вопросов возникает ответ. Где-то на краю земли с молоком смешались быль, необыль. Где-то на краю земли, где-то на краю земли и неба.
So hopefully you're like me and you hear there's some differences. There's the bass sounds a little different. The snare drum stands out. Listen to this piano. Isn't that great? Anyway, the bass sits differently. The kick drum sounds a little tighter in the finished mix. The vocals are a little less mid-range heavy, and the background vocals sit better in the mix. But it's a lot of just smaller, subtle stuff. The major tone of the mix happened in those first 20 minutes. So that's pretty revealing for me, and something that I'm going to apply to future mixes is really don't lose that musical aspect where you're just listening and making gut decisions. You can always go back and tweak those gut decisions, but you can't make yourself do gut decisions without putting yourself in kind of a tense sort of situation where you're just having to make those decisions. So try it on your next mix. Let me know what you think, and leave a comment on the video if you have any questions for me. Thanks again for being a subscriber. We'll see you next week in next week's video.